I've now shown you what OWIN is and what it does, or at least what the specification says that it is and should do. However, you can't do a whole lot with a specification. You need an actual implementation. And that's where Project Katana comes into play. Project Katana is Microsoft's implementation of the OWIN specification. It's an open source project hosted on Codeplex at katanaproject.codeplex.com if you want to go and have a look. But if you don't care about the actual code, you can just go ahead and get the stuff you need from NuGet. However, Project Katana is not just a by-the-book implementation of the OWIN specification. Instead, the people at Microsoft have implemented the OWIN specification, but also added some of their own stuff to it, making it easier to work with. For example, they've added some authentication features that we'll see later on in the course. It also has a very developer-friendly API that is easy to get started with and lets the developer focus on the important thing, which is building the functionality that's needed, instead of focusing on all the plumbing underneath it. It might also be worth mentioning that Project Katana is actually already an integral part in some of the features we use when we build ASP.NET applications today. So let's head over to Visual Studio and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just going to create a brand new project here, and I'm going to select an ASP.NET web application, and I'm going to name it Web App. In this case, I'm going to select the MVC template, and then I'm going to click the Change Authentication button, just to verify that there's some form of authentication activated for this demo. And by default, the individual user accounts option is selected, so that should be all good. And finally, I'm just going to untick the host in the cloud option, because I don't want to host this in Azure. Okay, so let's head over to the Solution Explorer and have a look at the packages.config file. As you can see here, there are actually a whole heap of NuGet packages that have the name OWIN in them. And if you look closely, you might realize that most of them have the word security in them as well. The reason for this is that during the last few years, pretty much anything that's been security related and web-based coming out of Microsoft has been coming out as OWIN middleware, which makes sense because it means that any web-based technology can use it and not just one or two specific frameworks. So that's why you will see NuGet packages with OWIN-based content being added to your new ASP.NET projects if you choose to add some form of authentication when you create them.